Are we live? I guess we are. Ladies and gentlemen, what is good, y'all? And sorry for the delay in trying to get this show together. It's the Chillmeister J. Christian Gary. I am joined by two men who I barely know, and I'm pretty sure y'all will basically want to know more about them. But yeah, this is a very special edition, hopefully a shorter edition of Focus Fights audio or Focus Fights video, as we are here to talk about the 22 fight behemoth known as Rising Decade slash Rising 49, which will take place about 17, no, about 30 hours from now, so to speak. The fight card starts at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific in the US. If you ain't got it on pay per view, go get it now. It's available on Vimeo and Rising.tv if you pre-order it, but the pre-order price for Rising.tv costs a hell of a lot less than the Vimeo pay-per-view, which costs like $50. But still, though, y'all will definitely enjoy some great action if y'all check that show out. Anyways, enough of me blabbering. I got Just Bleed fan. I got Zach. Just Bleed. No, wait, actually, Zach, since you were here first, can you please introduce more of yourself? If you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my name is Zach. So I usually do a Fighters Corner in Japanese show. I fight myself for deep, and yes, that's basically what I do. When fighters come from overseas to fight in Japan, I usually do the corner or attend them on whatever they need to get the best of their fights. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Now, Zach, I mean, obviously, I'm just hearing this. This is the first time I'm really hearing this, but I did not know that you fought for Deep MMA.
Yeah, I did before. It was a loss, and then after that, I had an injury. So I think in English we say kidney stones. So I had kidney stones removed, and then I was for recovery for a long time. And during that recovery time, I was like more cornering and helping fighters to get the best of their fights.
I see, I see. Well, I hope you're doing all right and you're healed up, man, because kidney stones, something that I don't ever want to experience.
Was
Five.
bad.
I'm only like 5'3". I don't think I would be able to survive something like that. But still, though, kidney stones are no joke, and hopefully you're doing better, man. Now, Just Bleed fan, can you please introduce more about yourself?
Well, I'm an MMA fan for about 20 years. I watch a lot of MMA, not just Japanese MMA. I also am a big bare knuckle boxing fan,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a gambler. And I consider myself a recreational gambler, not a professional gambler, but I have bet significant amount of money over the years that I've been gambling. So that's how I like to analyze and a lot of the fights. But I do watch for enjoyment as well. I'll watch cards that I don't have any money on, but I find the odds intriguing on this particular Ryzen.
Oh my God! Come to think of it, and Andrew is looking at this. Yo, Zach and JBF.
Uh,
Which, oh, by the way, I just realized, Zach, your name is Zach Buscape. I don't think we spoke to each other before, at least, for a while.
yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah, I think so too.
Right, right, right. But still, Andrew's enjoying this.
Oh
And,
yeah.
you know, JBF, you say that you're a degenerate gambler, so to speak.
I didn't say degenerate, but
Well, hey, I've learned that term from somebody I used to call a mentor in radio. Still, though, point of the matter is, when it comes down to these particular fights, like I said, there's like 23 fights on this card. 18 of them are in MMA. You got 3 world title fights. Which of the fights would you be able to bet on would basically be your over under favorite? And which of the fights would you basically put off the card, basically say it's a dud?
Which fights? You're asking me which fights?
Basically, what I'm trying to say is, what would be your overall betting favorite, and what would be your overall dud?
Well, if you want to get right into that aspect of it, I think it's very interesting. I was looking at the odds just before we got on, and Chihiro Suzuki in the main event is now plus 200, which means he's a significant underdog. Now, maybe I understand why to an extent. Herbst is a much better submission artist.
Mm-hmm.
Danger for a striker like Chihiro Suzuki.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that's kind of disrespecting his skill. So I think that's a very interesting odd right there.
Oh, no. Andrew is basically saying bet Argentine.
Yeah, minus 4,000 for Izawa is heavy. I don't really give her opponent much of a chance. Not that I've ever seen her fight. I didn't spend time researching that deeply, but I think it's probably fair to expect Izawa to get the finish probably quickly.
I mean, put it to you this way. When it comes down to the Seiki Izawa versus Lucia Aptogaram fight, and that's my dud, so to speak, because let's face it, I don't really do gambling. God knows that I basically have other things in mind. But when it comes down to that particular fight, you have to be one really sorry motherfucker to basically say, hey, I'm going to put $4 down on this 2-3 Argentine to beat this 14-0 super atomweight champion warrior, you know?
Yeah, you'd have to bet $4,000 to win 100 on Izawa. It's just too risky. That I mean, it's crazy. It's one of the highest odds I've ever seen, and even on the other side, you could bet 100. I think you'll win 1,600 by some chance if the Argentine pulls it off. But I think you're just throwing your money away.
Like why would you bet four grand to get $100? What's the point?
It's too risky. I mean, the risk. I mean, anything could happen in a fight. Izawa could get injured or something. Get cut badly and lose in some bizarre upset. So it's just way too risky.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this ain't like 1990, which, oh, by the way, coming up in like 2 months, it'll be the 35th anniversary of 42-1 Buster Douglas over Mike Tyson. But we know damn well that these days, I mean, even in this day and age of upsets, things like this rarely happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge upsets like that rarely happen. But there's a lot of upsets in combat sports. Moderate upsets.
Of course. And Andrew is saying, if I'm Izawa, I bet my house on my opponent and get knocked out.
Well, yeah, I mean, good luck getting enough money down. With the UFC, you could do it because you could put. First of all, I doubt she wants to cheat, or get caught, throwing a fight. She wants to throw a fight, but even if she did, it's happened in the UFC a few times where there was an investigation. Mm. You remember that Korean fighter a few years ago?
Yeah,
they talked to him before the fight, and he was he conspired with some Korean gamblers to potentially throw a fight, and the odds changed so rapidly. The UFC executives spoke with him and asked him, "Hey, is this on the up and up?" Because the highest level of the sport, this kind of thing rarely happens. And he ended up fighting, doing his best, and it made the news. It was a scandal. Then there was a whole thing with that other fighter,
Leo, right?
Who?
You're talking about the fight between, if I recall correctly, looking down the list, Taehyung Bang versus Leo Kuntz, right?
Yes, that's it. Kuntz and Bang, yes. That made international news. He ended up getting arrested, actually, in Korea because he admitted that there was a fix-in, but he got scared when they talked to him about it, and he actually fought well. I think he actually won the fight, if I recall correctly.
No,
Or did he lose?
Over Bang via split decision.
Okay, he gave it his best effort though, and and almost screwed it up. So that was rare.
Exactly.
Scandals.
And Andrew is saying Risen's had enough scandals. Let them finish 2024 scandal free.
Yeah. We're not accusing anyone in Ryzen of having scandals. I'm sure Izawa's gonna finish this girl, and that's gonna be that.
Oh yeah, of course. But still, though, enough about all that. We got 7 fights and a wild card fight to possibly talk about, possibly ponder over. The 7 fights that I picked out specifically are the fights that, are going to drive the most interest on this fight card. And those are in no particular order. Rin Yaman Tsukiyama will take on Karshiga Doubtbag. Yuta Kubo versus Vasabali Shaidulev. Makoto Shinryu Takahashi versus Jose Shorty Torres. Yuki Motoya versus Kiyoma Akimoto. And then the 3 world title fights. Kyoji Horiguchi defends the flyweight title against Kazimulo Zulu Boy Zulu. Roberto Satoshi de Sosa defends the lightweight title against former featherweight champ Bugar Karmov. And Chihiro Suzuki defends the featherweight title in a rematch from damn near 2 years ago against Clever Koike Herbst. Or just Clever Koike for the uninhibited. But still, though, point of the matter is, you want to talk about the 3 world title fights first? Because that's all people are going to be interested in once this show's over.
I think that's a good way to start.
Okay. Now, about the Chihiro Suzuki Clever Koike fight, I mean, this fight has some legitimate bad blood. I mean, these two basically wanted to, they've been wanting to settle their beef for the last 2 years. Because as we remember, the first time these two faced off against each other, Koike came in a little bit overweight. And he got the win over Suzuki via armbar, but he had his fight overturned to a no contest because of that penalty. So now, here we are, 2 years later, rematch. What do you think is going to be different? First of all, I'll start with you, Zach.
So we've seen Suzuki. He's been on the roll. Like he's got KOs over Pitbull and over Vuga, if I'm not mistaken, to catch the belt in where was that? Azerbaijan, right? So I think he improved a lot on his skills. And Koike also had some great victories. So I guess both fighters evolved from each other. Like Suzuki maybe evolved in striking, and Koike evolved in the ground game. So I guess both fighters will come with evolved version of themselves. And as everybody knows, in a fight, anything can happen. But the way I see it, if I had to pick a winner, if it goes after the second round, I see Koike get a submission. But if it goes before the second round, I see a KO by Suzuki.
So you think that Suzuki's probably going to win this fight if it doesn't go to a second round?
Yes, there's a lot of chance because Suzuki has the KO power in his hand, and he proved it against Vuga and what was his name? Pitbull.
Oh, right, of course. And Just Bleed, fam, when it comes down to Koike on his end, I mean, he's coming into this fight in a mixed bag situation. He's 2-2 with 1 no contest in his last 5. Both men are 8-1 in Rising. So, 8-1 and 1 no contest coming into this fight. What do you think would probably be the main key for Koike not to screw this up as far as, coming in safe?
Do you remember how easy or not easy Koike took Suzuki down? I don't. I didn't watch the fight. I didn't get a chance. But how easily did that happen last time?
I think he basically had to struggle to take him down before that armbar happened, which of course led to the no contest. And Andrew was saying, "Can we make a bet if Koike can make weight?"
A friendly bet.
Andrew says it's pretty easy.
So he said it took him down easy. Yeah, I haven't rewatched it. I didn't get a chance. I was going to do that now before I jumped on because I was waiting to make my bets till the weigh-ins, which I think happen in several hours from now.
The weigh-ins do happen as we're recording this in 6 hours.
6 hours from now? Okay. Because with Japanese MMA, unlike other organizations, when somebody misses weight, you can't win.
Oh,
so, you know, that's not the case. You know, in the UFC, the fighter pays a penalty to the other fighter from their purse, and the fight goes on, and it's scored as normal. There's no yellow card. You know, there's no contest. So if you're gambling on it, that's a huge difference. You don't want to bet on someone, have them miss weight, and you literally have a bet that's unwinnable, but you can still lose.
Exactly. But when it comes down to Koike, I mean, how does he make this fight a safe fight for him? And Andrew was saying they were on the tapes, plus Koike weighing in made it work more easy.
On the ropes, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got to take him down. I mean, I think that's, you know, the conventional logic, right? A grappler versus striker. I mean, Earp's striking is okay, but not like Suzuki. So he's got to take him down. You know, he can't rush it necessarily, but that's his path to victory.
And how do you see the fight playing out? Is it basically if Koike makes it past round 1, he might end up getting a submission victory? Or will we see at least a finish like the last time, only this one actually counts?
Well, if it ends early, it could be a Suzuki KO. That would be my supposition. I think he will struggle to get an early submission. So if it ends in the first round, probably Suzuki. Second or later, could go either way.
I see. And I would basically say that this fight could go either way. I'm not going to pick a side on who's going to win this fight. All I'm just saying is, at least unlike the first fight, it'll actually have a result that'll decipher who's the champion, who's the true kingpin at 145 pounds in Raw. And Andrew is saying, interesting enough, Koike has only been finished once, but never by knockout. I mean, like, seriously, if you look at his record, and I'm looking it up on Tapology as we speak, that one loss via finish was by submission. I mean, like, all the way back, I think dating back to his days in I think it was in KSW, I think.
Yeah, a lot of decisions. You're right.
No, it actually, his first submission loss was all the way back in 2009, to be honest. But yeah, there has been a lot of decisions, a lot of submissions, and, you know, hopefully for these two men, at least finally we're going to get a decisive winner when it comes down to this fight, and a champion.
Another thing to consider is that title fights in Ryzen are only 3 rounds, not 5.
Yeah, that is kind of crazy. But it's also understandable because nobody wants to sit around for damn near 30 minutes to an hour twiddling their thumbs, wondering what's going to happen with the action, unlike in some promotions.
So are you saying that you would not want to see Ryzen title fights become 5 rounds?
I mean, if anything, Ryzen should have never done away with the Pride style round set of. I mean, it could have worked really well for them to do a 10-minute first round and a 5-minute second and third. That would have made a whole lot of sense if they would have done that.
I remember those days too. Those were fun. There was another differentiator from the so-called unified rules, but that's long gone, even in Japan and in Ryzen. So I would like to see title fights be 5 rounds.
And now they're
And
judging the whole fights.
mhm.
So do you think that if the fights go 5-5, the 10 point system will be effective? Because as for now they have 3 rounds and they have to judge the whole fights. If it's go 5-5, do you think that if they use this system of using the wall fight will be more difficult to apply to the 5-5, or should they go the 10 point system if they were in the case of using the 5 minute rounds?
I think if they were to continue, I mean, if they were to end up doing the whole score round by round thing, in this case for them it would be striking, aggression. No, it would basically be clean striking, aggression, condition, and ring control, I think. But still, though, if they were to do that, they got to keep the rising rule set. They really have to because nobody wants to see, as my compadre JayWolf calls the pussified rule set, be into play in Rise.
Yes, I agree. Because, like, for example, when there's the fights and the judge are undecided who is going to win, and there's like a minute left, the fighters that make most efforts to win has the favor of the judges. So let's say we're on the same, like 1919, and if I want that 20, who is going to show more aggression and wants to finish the fight? Meaning, like, if for example, I don't have to hit my opponent real hard or anything like that, but if on the last 30 seconds I'm trying a takedown or I'm trying to find a way that help me wins the fight, then the judge will give me their voice because I get the how to say in English, the request that I'm trying to finish the fight. I'm trying to be the best. So please reward me. So the judge will look on that. How is that aspect in the US on the 10 point system?
I mean, just please, guy, you want to answer that?
I think what he's saying is you often hear coaches say, finish strong. So
Mm,
sometimes the person that wins the last 30 seconds of a round that's close wins the round by showing a lot of flurry of activity, showing an effort. It's sometimes that can convince the judges, okay, you know what? It was close. We'll give it to that guy or that gal. In the old days, they used to say, get a takedown because the takedowns were scored higher in
mhm.
the unified rule system. So if you lost the striking, not by too much, just by a little, but if you get one takedown at the end, sometimes that would swing it your way. Yeah.
That and the fact that if you're a fighter, and we all know this, you, Zach, especially, you never want to fight to go in the hands of the judges.
Of course, yes, yes.
Hmm.
And that's also now in Japan because have you guys heard in Japan we say must hante, or I can translate in English as a must decision. So like in Deep, for example, we don't have draws. So the judges must choose a fighter, a winner. So it can be on anything that they show in the cage. So let's say, for example, we on draw on the scorecard, but since there's a must decision, the judge can see, oh, this guy has a great aggression, or oh, this guy has a great wrestling, or this guy has a great submission game. He tried a lot of submission. So in the Japanese rule set now in deep, that's the case. That's what they apply. All judges must give a winner. There is no draw.
Yeah, of course. Especially considering the fact that in a lot of old school MMA fights, it's sad to just see the fight not even continue even after 2 rounds.
Yes.
But still, though, let's go ahead and continue on and talk about these title fights. Second fight that I want to talk about is Roberto Satoshi de Souza, who will be making his fourth defense of the Rising lightweight title. He is 17-3 overall, 10-1 in Rising. He'll be taking on former featherweight champion Vugar Karamov. 20-5 overall, 6-2 in Rising, former featherweight champion, of course. I mean, considering the fact that Karamov has only had one fight in the last 2 years because he had legal issues going back to, hooliganism in Azerbaijan. I mean, do you think it's too early for him to be getting a title shot in a new division, knowing damn well he has business to attend to in the featherweight division?
Yeah, that's something that's definitely going to be a challenge for him. But he proved himself last time at the Rising Nagoya. He didn't take any damage or any stuff like that. He wasn't in any difficulty or have a difficult fight. So what's going to be the huge factor is how did he train and how his condition is going to these fights. Did he train with people that have the same styles as Satoshi and also at the same weight? So I think it all depends about what he was doing during his last fights and all the way coming up to these fights. What is his game plan? How did he train? All that stuff will come into play when he's going inside the ring. That's what I think.
I mean, come to think of it, considering the fact that his last fight was against Kazumasa Maijima and he wiped him out in 30 seconds,
Yes.
I mean, I'm pretty sure his training camp was fresh and ready to prepare himself for future. I mean, not just a future contest like this, but apparently, you know, a future opportunity to showcase himself, even if it is in a fight against somebody of the caliber of Roberto Satoshi de Souza.
Yes.
And Just Bleed fan, when it comes down to this fight for Satoshi, he's coming in basically undefeated for about the last year or so, the last 2 years, considering the fact that the last time he lost was against AJ McKee and then he lost against Patricky Pitbull. But still, though, when it comes down to Satoshi, what do you think is going to be key for him to figure out Karamov's style and retain the title for the fourth time?
Well, I was very impressed with Satoshi knocking out Luis Gustavo in his last fight.
Mm-hmm.
That shows his striking's gotten a lot better. Also, looking at his losses, he lost Patricky Pitbull because of leg kicks, largely.
Mm-hmm.
Karamov doesn't have that threat, not to the same extent, maybe, as Pitbull. McKee, of course, is a great all-around fighter. I don't recall if he wrestled him a lot in that fight, but wrestling Satoshi is a danger in and of itself. So I kind of like Satoshi as a small favorite. I'd like to see the size difference, if there is one, at the weigh-in. But I think he's rightfully a small favorite.
I mean, come to think of it, there's nothing really that small about them except for the height differential. I mean, Satoshi has a good 2 inches in height on Bugar, and last time I checked, Sosa fights predominantly at 157 pounds or 71 kilos. Karmov fights predominantly at 145 pounds or 66 kilos. So it's going to take a lot of good eating for Karmov to basically come up to Souza's level. But I'm pretty sure by the time the weigh-ins happen, in about 6 or so hours from now, we'll see that weigh-in difference or that weight difference come into play.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I believe, betting-wise, there's probably some value on Satoshi. I think I'm going to put a bet on him. I would have done it already, except I'm waiting for the weigh-in. And just to go, before I forget, to go back to the last fight, Suzuki and Herbst could go either way. And I think there's great value on Suzuki at plus 200. Even if he loses, it's still a good bet.
Yes.
I see. And Andrew, you have just joined us on this conversation. What input do you have to put onto this? Andrew, come in. like testing all
I think
the
it was at the laundromat.
yeah,
He's betting now. He's trying to do some bets.
yeah.
Sorry about that.
He's
As
trying.
for me, I see. I obviously I want Vuga to win because we're friends, so I want him to win.
Hmm.
But I think the key for Vuga is going to use the wrestling to take him down and use the elbows, a lot of elbows on Satoshi, and to be like how you say uh, punching him a lot. Like don't let him Satoshi think and set up, because if
I just want
Satoshi
to
can
say
set
this.
up, then that's going to be a problem, and Vuga will have to know how to escape those submissions. So the setup that Satoshi can bring will be the real danger. Like for example, Vuga takes him down, and from there he can set up an armbar or go for Kimura or something like that. So I think Vuga will have to be very aware of what's going on, and don't let Satoshi think or set up anything, or else he's gonna get submitted.
Right, of course. Basically throwing punches and bunches. Now,
Yes.
Andrew, can you hear us? Still nothing. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're enjoying getting your starch and press on, but still, the point of the matter is, when it comes down to this fight, again, I am kind of down the middle on it because when it comes down to this fight, my heart is saying heavily, Souza's going to win this. Souza's going to retain that title for a fourth time and be in the conversation of possibly joining the upper echelon of other promotions, even though he originally said, I don't want to fight in insert three-letter promotion name here. I want to fight for Verizon and build up the star power there. But still, though, how is that star power really going to help when there's not that many people, domestic or foreign or otherwise, that could basically fill up the upper weight classes in Rising?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true. Because here in Japan, uh, they don't have like 205. I guess that's 93 kilo is 205. We
mm,
don't have that many 205 or even 185. So when it's come to upper weight like 70, 77, that's where it starts to get difficult to get for Japanese promotion, because there's not many people in Japan at that weight. But when it's come to higher weight like 205 or 265, that even 185, that's become a real challenge to find opponents domestically. So they have to go to the foreign country to find people at that weight.
mm-hmm.
So that might be an issue that they have to find Satoshi's opponents, and meaning that Satoshi opponent, if they're still at the 70, how you say it's 165, right? The belt, uh,
Oh,
155.
157.
Yes. So to find opponents,
157.
yes, one to find opponent at that weight, they might have to find him foreign opponents, and his last two fights against foreign opponents were Eiji Maki and Pitbull, so they were quite strong opponents. So do you, if they find him opponent of that caliber, what do you guys think?
I mean,
Well, sorry. Go ahead.
nah, you know what? I was trying to see if Andrew can answer this because he just joined us again. I mean, I'm just wondering if he can give us his thoughts about this, but if you may, just please, fan, please go ahead.
Yeah, I don't hear Andrew either.
Oh, I'm here. I'm sorry. I thought somebody else was talking. I'm sorry about that. JBF, good to finally see you in the flesh, my man. The man behind the JBF avatar, and Zach. Oh, Genki desu ka?
Yeah,
Oh,
Genki,
hisashiburi.
Ashibiri.
Merci beaucoup. Or whatever.
Merci.
I don't know French. Sorry.
Andrew, I don't know French either. But still, though, now that you're here, I mean, thoughts about the Souza versus Karmar fight?
So this is what these are my thoughts. So I've come to the conclusion, and JBF, you're more than welcome to take this into into consideration for your parlay. Satoshi, if he does not want to strike with Vugar, he can just take it down to the ground if he wants to. And I just can't see what Vugar has done in all of his other fights. You know, the single leg trip or striking. I can't see him wanting to risk that with Satoshi at all. If there's any way if Vugar wins, it's on the feet. But then if Satoshi's like, yeah, this guy's hurting my face, I'm just gonna take him down or just slide around to his back and choke him out. That's why I think Satoshi's gonna win this. I just don't think, you know, it's the same thing with Yachi. I feel like some only the highest level of MMA grapplers could maybe defend against Satoshi stuff like we saw McKee. I don't think Vugar has that at all. And I don't. He may have trained for it in the few weeks that he's had to train, but man, Satoshi's a different beast when it comes to grappling and submissions, and now striking apparently as well.
Mm-hmm. And now JBF, you want to counter on that?
I agree with Andrew. I was intending to bet Satoshi, and it's a straight bet for me. First off, books don't let you parlay Ryzen. It's not tier 1. Sorry.
Fair enough.
I wish they did, but no, it's a straight bet. I think he was minus 145 or maybe minus 160, depending on the book. That's close enough for me. I'm going to bet him straight, and hopefully he'll win.
I see. Now let's go ahead and talk about the flyweight title encounter. Andrew, I really wish you were here earlier to talk about the featherweight title, but hey, times change. We got to move on. But still, though, flyweight title encounter. Kyoji Horiguchi, Kyoji Horiguchi, the new master at the flyweight division, bantamweight kingpin for a long time. He makes his first flyweight title defense against EFC Africa legend Nkazimulo Zulu Boy Zulu for the flyweight title. Of course, Kyoji Horiguchi has been dominant in most of his fights in Rizin Fighting Federation history since joining the promotion back in 2017, aside from the 2 fights he had with Kai Asakura and, the fight that he had, aside from Kai Asakura, dude's been dominant. And, he just came off of a couple of fights with Shinryu and with Sergio Pettis. But now he comes into this fight against Nkazimulo Zulu, who just basically dominated in his Rizin debut and has a history against Japanese fighters, even though what's one fight against Hiromasa Okikubo going to do to basically cement history? Still, though, point of the matter is, you got 2 strikers, one well-versed in Muay Thai, the other well-versed in wrestling, just ready to strike at each other. First of all, Zach, who do you think's going to come out on top on this?
Well, so we know African MMA fighter has good wrestling, and Kyoji has the fight IQ. His experience will come into play. He can strike, he can wrestle, so that's a tough one to call. I think if I have to choose one, I'm going on with Kyoji. But we have also his opponent with a good fighter, and he was a champion of EFC.
Mm-hmm.
So that's also is a great experience. But here in this fight, I guess the fight IQ is what's going to give each one the chance of victories. Who come with the best strategy, who has the best game plan. So on me, for this one, it's tough to choose a winner. But if I have to choose one, I go with Kyoji.
I see. Andrew, what say you? I mean, obviously, a lot of people who don't watch regional MMA, especially out of South Africa, wouldn't know who Zulu is, if they pointed to him on a poster. But still, though, when it comes down to Zulu off of the back of him beating Joe Arai back at Rise in 48, I mean, what do you think should be the game plan for Zulu going into this fight?
Oh man, the game plan. I think I want to almost say that he should try to use his grappling with Kyoji, but man, Kyoji, like Kyoji's grappling is like I thought that Makoto Shinryu was going to out grapple Kyoji, and then I was like, oh my god, no, it's actually the opposite that happened. For Zulu, I think what he's got to kind of just do, it's kind of almost did what Kai did. Just you have to wait for Kyoji to come in, and that's when you take a shot against him. You can't really, you can't. If anything else, like if he tries to move in at the wrong time, he risks getting popped, maybe taken down, something like that. He's got to wait for Kyoji to kind of like do a little bounce in and bounce back, wait for those hands to go down, and then take a shot there. I also I see this fight going in Kyoji's way by decision just because I think he's a ruler of flyweight. He's the second best flyweight in the world until he decides to retire. Obviously we know who number one is, but number two I think is Kyoji. He's just absolutely is the one fight that he lost in the most recent years against Pettis, and in fairness, he was winning that fight, got knocked out in the fourth round, but then got the win back. So I'm favoring Kyoji in this to basically go 10-9, 10-8 for all 3 rounds.
Okay, and Just Bleed fan. I mean, would you say that the odds are a bit even when it comes down to this, or do you think that Kyoji has a slight advantage?
Well, in fact, the odds are quite lopsided. Kyoji Horiguchi is minus 800 last I checked. Depends on the book, but that means he's an 8-1 favorite. You'd have to bet 800 to win 100 on Kyoji Horiguchi. Now, I do think he's going to win. I don't give the opponent a great chance, but it's unbettable at that wide kind of odd. I do recall seeing Zulu's last fight in Ryzen. I haven't seen any others. I think he mostly struck in it, and he got a TKO. If I'm not mistaken.
TKO via doctor stoppage over Joe Arai back at Ryzen 48, which was back in September, by the way.
Right. So, I don't know if Zulu has good enough wrestling. I mean, you got to have a really good skill or a physical size advantage to beat Horiguchi. Pettis is a great fighter, and he caught him with that spinning back fist. Tachi Mix is an elite fighter, and has decent takedowns, incredible submissions. Or you got to have really great striking. Who was it that knocked out Horiguchi?
Asakura, Kai Asakura.
Yes, Kai Asakura, who we recently saw in the UFC. He's an elite striker, arguably. So, Zulu, does he have an elite skill or an incredible, well-rounded game? I don't think so.
Well, on the contrary, Quasimodo Zulu has 14 of his 16 wins by way of finish, half via knockout, half via submission. So, I mean, I guess that's up to you to think that if he's a good enough level striker or a good enough level grappler.
Yeah. I think he's well-rounded, and he's going to probably lose, but it's unbettable the way it is.
Of course.
It's come also, we have to, if I were to bet, so in fight camps, usually when we have opponents, we look at the opponent's face versus the guys of the camp faced. And based on that, we do a game plan or something like that. So I think when it's come to betting, we should see the same thing about who Kyoji fought and who Zulu fought, and go from there. Who Kyoji was able to finish, and we have to see also if it was Zulu fighting opponents of Kyoji's, how the fight outcome would be. Would he have the same chance as Kyoji had against, for example, Mix or Pettis? How that fight would have been? Would he been able to finish Pettis, or will he be knocked out by Pettis? How would that go? So that I think we should take in consideration if we're going to bet. What
Hmm.
do you guys think?
I mean, to be honest, I really wouldn't say that with a straight face because the only common opponent that Zulu has compared to Kyoji is Hiromasu Okikubo, but he lost to Okikubo on the Ultimate Fighter, so that doesn't count. But still, though, when it comes down to Zulu, this ain't Dylan West or even what am I trying to say? I think that I mean, who was that other South African that fought in Rising, Andrew, other than Dylan West and other than Zulu? I mean, I know I talked to him before, Boyd Allen. But yeah, this ain't Dylan West or Boyd Allen we're dealing with when it comes down to Zulu. Zulu definitely has the opportunity to make history, even though he has no common opponents with Horiguchi. But still, though, it'd be fun to see him try and make history off the back of Kyoji. Just Bleed Fan, you got anything else to say before we move on?
Yeah, just that Zach was referring to what we call strength of schedule. You know, Horiguchi has fought way, way more and way better fighters than Zulu. So he's right. You don't want to write anybody off, but judging by the people that Horiguchi has beaten and the very few that he's lost to, and Zulu hasn't even fought anyone anywhere near that level. So
I
you
mean,
got to figure Horiguchi's very, very likely to win. But at minus 800, you have to pass on it. If this was a UFC fight, you'd have all these other options like the over, the under, win by KO, win by submission, win in round 1, round 2, round 3. That makes it the gambling really interesting. But with Rising, you just get a side. So forget it.
I mean, come to think of it, I'm such a sports fan, a local sports nerd. When it comes down to my local teams in the Houston area, I should know what a strength of schedule is. And clearly, I mean, looking at Zulu's record compared to Kyoji's, that strength of schedule, as far as known names go outside of the African region, it's pretty weak.
But we never know. Like Kyoji faced, of course, greater, bigger names than he did, but what makes it tough for me to bet is what he bring to Kyoji. Did Kyoji face anyone like Zulu in his fighting career? That's something that I take into consideration. Even if Kyoji fought bigger names, maybe Zulu can bring something that is unexpected. So he might do something unexpected and get the victory because that's the unknown fight factor. But based on paper, Kyoji is likely to win.
Oh, yeah, of course, very likely. I mean, especially if the odds are to say that he does have that, 800, that minus 800 advantage, of course he's definitely going to win. But still, it's like you say, it's fighting. Anything can happen, especially over a fight between two top-ranked flyweights in the world, even though Kyoji's the only one that's top-ranked. Zulu has yet to prove himself outside the African continent, so we'll see how that goes. Now, a fight that I want to basically talk about in retrospect as age versus youth, Yuki Motoya versus Kiyoma Akimoto at bantamweight, where the winner could possibly face off against Naoki Inoue for the Rising Bantamweight title. But if you look at the ages here, Yuki Motoya, the former 2-division deep world champion, he's 35. He's literally old enough to be Kiyoma Akimoto's daddy, and he's 18. I mean, come on. when it comes down to Kiyoma Akimoto, who could easily pass for one of the two high school fighters that are going to be fighting on this card as well in the Kyoshin finals, I mean, do you think Akimoto has what it takes to be a future star? Zach, I'll start with you and then work my way down.
Oh yes, so Akimoto has a great striking. He's definitely has his good striking, and that's going to come into play because when he was 5, he was actually training boxing. He
Wow.
went to train on boxing since then. He's training boxing since 5 in great boxing gym in Japan. So when he's sparring, we see that this experience is really coming to play. And now that we could see in his last fight that he's accepting the grappling phase and the wrestling phase. So with the use and his skill, yes, he has definitely the chance to pass Motoya. But again, we're talking about Motoya, a two-division champ. He's a veteran in deep and he has experience, and he also now trained with Kyoji. So, of course, I want Akimoto to win because we train together. But Motoya also is Motoya. So it's again youth versus experience. So it's tough to choose.
Oh, yeah, of course. Especially considering the fact that when you have that type of experience that Montoya has, I mean, he basically fought everybody that has been available to him in Rising, in Dream, in Deep. I mean, the dude's just basically been, you know, to say, a star or a star maker, so to speak. But still, though, when it comes down to Akimoto and Andrew, if you can hear me, I'll turn to you. I mean, when it comes down to Akimoto, do you think he's getting too high too fast, so to speak?
Uh, different technical. Ah, okay, there we go. That's too far, too high. Well, that's a story of a lot of prospects. Because promotions are desperate um to push people beyond beyond what they should be pushed to. I rag on Scott Coker a lot, but I'll say probably the most recent prospect, perfect prospect buildup was AJ McKee. Quite honestly, like what they did for him was probably the most as perfect as you can get. I'm still
Oh, yeah.
picking out your. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt you, even though it's my show and it's kind of my thing, but you know what? That is kind of true when it comes down to AJ McKee because that dude is a perfect example of what a homegrown prospect, fresh out the amateurs, straight into a major promotion can do when you give him enough time to breed, when you give him enough time to build himself up. And now AJ is definitely one of the top 5 featherweight fighters in the world, and is probably on his way to being one of the top 5 lightweight fighters in the world. But I digress.
With Akimoto's case, they put him up against two strikers, Kintaro and Suzuki, and
Mm-hmm.
probably from that first fight, they saw Kintaro took down Akimoto pretty easily, but Akimoto got back up, was able to finish the fight eventually. But obviously, Ryzen is like, okay, you know what? Well, initially, apparently, they were supposed to do Yuki Motoya versus is somebody's mic on or something? I don't know why. I'm just hearing somebody's reverberation. Is somebody listening to the show while we're talking?
It's not me.
I'm wearing headphones, so it's not me.
Maybe.
Zach. Let's see. Okay. Sorry about that, Zach. But actually, I'm going to ask you some questions, Zach, about Akimoto. I'm curious to know, was he at Para Estra Chiba before he came to JTT? And does he do his striking at JTT, or does he also do it at that other boxing gym in Chiba?
So from my understanding, he was a Perestra member, if I recall correctly, but not sure. So yeah, he does all his striking at the JTT, but he
Gotcha.
also do some boxings. but
Okay.
most of his training is at the gym. Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. So as far as like thoughts on the fight, I think Matoya. Listen, he's a spoiler, but I just don't see him spoiling Akimoto at the time. I'm gonna guess that he's gonna come in prepared, ready to neutralize all of Matoya's grappling, and Matoya's weakness has always been people that are 10 times better grapplers than him or strikers. And I think Akimoto is just a long, lanky striker that's going to be able to keep Matoya at bay, and eventually, I think probably finish him by round 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm. I can totally understand you on that, Andrew. And Just Bleed fan, when it comes down to, the experience factor over Montoya, how do you think that's going to play into a factor of, the bet, so to speak, as far as, how over will Montoya be on the cards?
Well, you've got a 7-0, 18-year-old prospect, very young, two amateur fights, so 9-0 if you count those, against a veteran. That's a tough one to predict. And the odds are a pick 'em. It's dead even, minus 115 each. So anything could happen. I wouldn't touch this fight from a betting perspective. If I had a pick, I'm going to agree with Andrew and say I think the young prospect probably gets it done. But we've all seen young prospects, not pass that test. So who knows?
Yeah, but then again, as we all know, we shouldn't be betting on kids to fight anyways. I mean, last time I checked, this is MMA, not college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we shouldn't even be betting on, 18-year-olds. And, I mean, we shouldn't really be betting on 18 to 20-year-olds, doing what they can in athletics, because they're not even old enough to bet themselves,
I believe you have to be, some states are 21. I think it's 18 overseas. In any case, it's an interesting fight. Classic, young, very young prospect versus a veteran with a lot of fights. So I'm just going to watch this and enjoy it as a fan.
Hey, same here. I mean, to be honest, many people might think Kiyoma Akimoto is a better prospect than Raul Rosas Jr., who's in the UFC now. But then again, who knows? Maybe, 5 or 10 years down the line, we might be looking at a future star, And, going down the totem pole to the featherweight. Well, actually, no, this fight will be at a catch weight at 130 pounds, 59 kilos. Makoto Shinryu Takahashi. And Andrew, I know you hate me using the dude's full name, but I'm just saying it because what his mama called him. But still, though, Makoto Shinryu Takahashi versus Jose Shorty Torres. Many people remember the fact that Shinryu is the only fighter to vie for titles in Rizin and Bellator and go to a no contest in both. Well, actually, go to a no contest or lose both of them. But, dudes pretty much carved his niche. Deep champion, Cage Fury champion in his first attempt at the belt in his first U.S. bout, by the way. So the dude has managed to carve himself up to be a nice prospect. In comes the ultimate prospect, Chicago's very own decorated star, the multiple-time IMMAF champion and former UFC star, former Brave CF champion. Well, currently signed to Brave CF, Jose Shorty Torres. So, Andrew, since you interviewed Torres, I mean, I just got to ask, when he spoke with you, what first came to mind when it came down to that chat you had with him? Andrew?
Yep. Sorry, I'm doing errands while also talking. What I learned is don't become a fighter because being a fighter is fucking hard. That's what I learned from him. Pick something else.
Well, hey, you're about to be an amateur fighter. No, you're about to fight in your second amateur fight, so I think I would know that.
Well, I had to count that fight's canceled. I did a what do you call it? Partial tear of my ACL, so I'm actually not. That fight's canceled. Capology's just got to update their thing now. But yeah, um,
Well, she has
yeah.
the worst photo of you imaginable, but I digress.
For the it was actually he told Dylan Bowker on Bowker Talking Bouts
Hmm.
in his interview that he had to sell his car for to get money for his fight camp.
For this upcoming fight camp?
I believe it was. If it
Oh,
wasn't, it was for a previous one. Nonetheless, having to sell your car sucks.
I
As
mean,
somebody who has a car.
I'm sure that it was probably because the trilogy with Nkosi Ndebele and Brave FC, I mean Brave CF, took a lot out of him because he didn't think that he was going to be fighting that guy 3 times.
Quite possibly, but yeah. Well, I mean, he's confident. I don't think Shinryu is going to be able to submit him. He might. I don't think he's going to knock him out either. I think that Shinryu is just going to overpower him with just wild scrambles and grappling. Yeah, I think I don't know if I think Shorty might have the chance to knock out Shinryu, but this is also catch weight, and he hasn't done flyweight. He said in like about since he left the UFC, I think he said. So you know, is he gonna have muscle memory for that for this weigh-in less than he usually does? I don't know, but I mean, he looks good at the weigh-ins, or he looks good at the press conference. Excuse me. But I'm still thinking Shinryu. I think Shinryu is just a monster. You know, he when he wants to get that fight to the ground, he'll get it down to the ground somehow, some way.
Yeah, Andrew, you are right because the last time that Jose Shorty Torres fought as a flyweight, it was on the prelims of UFC 227 when he got knocked out by Alex Perez. And that was back in August of 2018. So, he's been sitting pretty at bantamweight. Obviously, the former Brave CF bantamweight champion, former Titan featherweight, damn it, what am I trying to say? The former Titan FC bantamweight champion and flyweight champ as well. But still don't. I mean, you said, and he agreed to you that the last time he fought in a ring was in his amateur career. Here he is fighting in his first pro fight in a ring as a professional. I think it's going to be a lot different for him. Okay. Zach, you want to talk anything about this fight, especially from the perspective of Shinryu?
So I don't really know about much about Javier, but
Okay.
as for Makoto, I was there during his last fight against Kenta in Deep. That was a really tough fight. So Kenta kinda did. It was like a controversial decision. A lot of people thought Kenta won, and some people thought that Makoto won. But in his last fight, it was a really hard fight for him.
Mm-hmm.
So going into this fight, I sure that he is going to bring, I would say, kind of frustrations that people think that his opponent won. So that can be in a good way for him, like for his camp. He can use that. Oh, I got to make a decisive win. So maybe my other previous fight, the controversy will stop and people will recognize me as a true champion or something like that. But yeah, that's if I have to pick a winner, I can't choose because I don't really know much about his opponent. But Makoto is definitely one of the top flyweights.
Understood. But here's the thing, though. When it comes down to Makoto, he's mostly known as a points fighter. I mean, there's
Yes,
a reason why a good majority of his wins, 13 of them, in fact, are by decision.
yes. And we could see that also during his last fight at Deep against Kenta. So the fight where brought to decision, and he won by majority decision. But yes, like he has a lot of decision, but his goal also is on his last fight. You could he could feel like, I don't know for sure because I'm not in his head, but he could feel a sense of urgency. So he pushed on the gas and tried to finish the fight. I guess his opponent Kenta. So will he go on that perspective into his next fight and try to push the gas and instead of looking for points, risk it all? So I'm not too sure about that, but it can come into play yet.
Hmm, I see. And Just Bleed fan, as I just mentioned, Makoto Shinryu Takahashi is a points fighter. Jose Shorty Torres wins. Half of them were by finish. How do you think this fight plays out?
Well, I have a long history betting on Shorty Torres. I used to watch Titan FC regularly when it was on HDNet or
Access TV.
Access TV when it changed names. That promotion, Titan FC, was one of their featured promotions, along with Legacy and RFA, now LFA combined, and the other ones I mentioned earlier. I thought he was a fantastic fighter and a great prospect in the lower weight divisions. And he was clearly on a trajectory that was going to get him to the UFC. And he made it there. Now, unfortunately, he got there around 2018 at a time when it was kind of tenuous whether they were going to invest in that division, despite Demetrius Johnson being a fantastic champion. You know, at one point they almost did away with it and let a number of fighters go. And then later on they reinvested in it. So he had a tough break. You know, he won, quote unquote, that first fight. You know, it actually says on Topology. See if I can pull it up right now. I've never seen this.
Topology, ground and pound after botch slam.
Yes, after botched slam. You've never seen the word botched in the Topology result before, but I remember it. Yeah,
when even we know that it was like Brooks self pile drove himself.
Yes. So he did win that fight. Okay, great. Lucky for him, he won the fight, and then he got knocked out quickly by Alex Perez, and he got caught. He got cut right after that, or so he should have had another chance under most conditions. If that was a weight division they believed in at the time, he should have got at least one more fight, even though he got knocked out. And I think that was go ahead.
I mean, the thing was, the UFC was doing all the promotional bloodletting they could because they didn't find anybody to face Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson unless it was Henry Cejudo.
I don't want to. I really apologize for interrupting, but if you want to find out the reason why he got cut or why he suspects he got cut, because nobody ever really finds out a reason why, unless Dana White says something, and even though that could be sus, check out my interview. But I'll tell you what he said anyway. He apparently he was told that to go. He was told by the powers that be to go to bantamweight. And then he's like, "Nah, man, these guys are killers. I can't whatever, go to bantamweight." So they're like, "Okay, well, we're going to be cutting flyweight, so we're just going to let you go early." But JBF is right. Yeah, he should have gotten another shot. You know, you have to get cut after one or two fights. You have to you or your management have to royally fuck up somehow. Even people who fight shittily still get that standard 3 fights promise a lot of times.
Exactly. Especially considering the fact that when it came down to Torres, 2 fights don't give you much of a chance, especially if you go 1-1. I mean, it's basically like you were just made to flunk out the second you get that second fight and the second your head hits the mat, you know? But still, though, point of the matter is, who do y'all see winning this fight? Zach, I'll start with you.
Well, it's hard for me to choose, but if I have to choose one, uh, I think Makoto has some grappling tool, so I go with Makoto maybe by decision.
I see. And since Andrew just breezed out for a little bit, Just Bleed, man, you want to give your prediction about this fight?
I found it interesting that you referred to Suzuki as a point fighter when many fans most know him from knocking out Patricio Pitbull in
Oh, of
spectacular fashion.
course.
I didn't
My
watch
apologies.
his whole career. Uh, I have seen him fight a few times now at this point, but yeah, I mean, it certainly could go to decision. I have not kept up with Shorty Torres's post UFC career like I could have. I watch a lot of fights, but I do draw the line. Some places I haven't watched all the Brave cards and whatever else he's done. So I don't know how he's looking lately. I I would think though that this is probably Suzuki's fight to win,
Mm-hmm.
and he is a moderate favorite. Uh, I don't really feel super comfortable putting a lot of money on it. I might just for entertainment, make a bet on Suzuki, but it's kind of reckless because I haven't watched Shorty's fights.
Well, here's the thing when it comes down to Shorty Torres. The reason why those fights basically, aren't taking place. I mean, the reason why you probably haven't been paying much attention to Shorty Torres's post UFC career is because he fought on these Brave cards that, for us here in the States, start early in the afternoon or late in the morning.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I think they are free. At one time, I had a password and I tried to watch one or two of them, but
but they are free to watch on YouTube again, right?
perhaps at that one time I think they were being streamed on their own website, but all you had to do was give them an email and sign up for it.
Right.
Years
They send you a password via email.
Yeah, you got a link. You could log in with your email and password or whatever it was, and they were free. But I just don't have time to watch every promotion around the world, and Brave's one of them. So I'll be interesting to see him fight. But just judging on how his career's going, looking at his record, I'm going to say if I had to, put a gun to my head, I'm going to say Suzuki's probably going to win, and I might bet him to win just because.
And now going down to the featured featherweight fight of the card, at least I think, Yuta Kubo, the smiling sniper, needs to drop the distractions a bit. By that meaning his songbird wife or ex-wife. I don't know how he and Sarah are, but still though, point of the matter is Yuta Kubo needs to block out all distractions to face off against Razabali Shardulayev, who was a legitimate murderer, a legitimate killer. When it comes down to this man, 7 of his 11 wins, all finishes, by the way, are by way of first round finish. 6 submissions, 1 knockout. I mean, Razabali is a contract killer, so to speak. And since joining Ryzen over the last 6 months, he's done just so, submitting Koji Takeda and making Juan Archuleta a complaining fool. But still, though, when it comes down to this fight, from the Yuta Kubo point of view, what do you think is going to be the main thing that comes to mind when dealing with a fighter like Shardulayev? Zach, you go first.
So Kubo is actually a great striker. He was, if I'm not mistaken, ESK champ,
Mm-hmm.
and so he will know about what to do in the striking area. But again, this Bucket is very as a contract killer. He finishes 6 win by submission, 1 by KO, and his last fight is actually interesting because they fought both the same opponent as Kinoshita, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Takeaki even though Kubo managed to drag him out to a decision.
Yes, but we've seen that Dosbus get knock him out. So I think yes. So that's, I don't know if that means something or anything, but going to a fight where you had your opponent drag your opponent all the way to the decision, and now your opponent knocked out your same opponent. That might be, I don't know, in the psychological factor how it's gonna play
Hmm.
going into that fight. But yeah, Kubo has an extensive experience in the striking area. But again, every fighter is different, so I don't know on that one how it's gonna play.
Of course. I mean, especially considering the fact that, yeah, Kubo's no slouch at 5-1. I mean, 3 of his 5 wins are by way of finish, 2 of them in the first round, the other in the second. But still, though, when it comes down to Kubo, he's going to have to basically, as Just Bleed Guy and I probably know, pitch a shutout, so to speak. Right? Just Bleed fan, you got anything to say about that?
Well, the opponent, Kubo's opponent's record is very impressive. That undefeated, that's a lot of finishes. A fair amount of them are submissions, and he submitted his most recent opponent. Who was that?
He submitted Juan Archuleta while
Yes.
complaining about, oh, he hurting me too hard or something like that. Like, you're a former world champion. You should not be complaining that much about being hurt too hard or being grappled too hard.
Yeah, I thought that was impressive. I mean, Archuleta's a good fighter. He's been inconsistent with his weight and, stuff like that. But still, I think submitting him that quickly was pretty impressive. Yuta Kubo, he's mostly a striker, right? So he's going to have trouble if it gets into the grappling and wrestling realm. I mean, I'd say he's got a puncher's chance. And the odds reflect that. Shaidalayev is like minus 1,900 at the moment. So that's pretty steep.
I mean, so basically what you're saying is it's going to, I mean, like I said, Kubo's going to have to pitch a shutout when it comes down to this particular fight. He's definitely going to have to step onto the mound and pitch a shutout in order to actually get the win over Shaidulayev, who is not a tough customer to get one off of,
Yeah, he's got to land a combo. He's got to hurt him, knock him down, stun him, something like that to really change the fight. Because even if he hurts him a little bit, if he doesn't knock him out, or I think he's going to get overwhelmed at some point. So tough fight.
Of course. And Zach, I'm sorry if we're basically making baseball references, even though it's in the dead of winter. I mean, I know that Nippon baseball is just a lot more crazier over there than it is here with the major leagues, even though we shouldn't be talking about baseball at all. Spring meetings and all. Still, though.
Yes, so this fight, is interesting. We have like a striker versus a grappler, obviously, undefeated guy. But again, Kubo experience is also there. So yeah, it's tough to say. It's always like the prospect versus the experience. So it's tough for me to say. But if I have to choose one, I go with the Kazbasiev.
I see. And, when it comes down to the final fight of our 7 regular fights that we're going to be talking about, I mean, I guess I could basically combo this particular fight up with one of the fights that's going to be like this. Karshiga Doubtbeck will be facing off against Ren Sukiyama, a.k.a. Yaman for the uninhibited. And Doubtbeck is a monster when it comes down to this game. He is no slouch. 15 of his 16 wins by way of finish, most of them in the first round. I don't think Yaman's going to be anywhere near prepared outside the entrance, which he will definitely dazzle us all with. But still, though, you look in the lightweight division, you got a similar bout happening, and it's Yusuke Yachi versus Saku Jr., aka Taisei Sakuraba.
Yes.
I mean, the son of a legend, and I don't see why Ryzen is basically throwing this man to the wolves, Sakuraba, in his professional MMA debut. But still, though, if you look at these two matchups, Tsukiyama versus Doubtbeck and Yachi versus Saku Jr., which one do you think is the bigger mismatch?
Well, though I guess Yasuke versus Sakuraba Jr. is yeah, they're both quite a mismatch, but yeah, I think I'm going with Yasuke in term because of the physical factor also. Like Yasuke is a bit like a real wrestler, and he has a lot of experience fighting the Bellator versus Rising,
Mm-hmm.
and he has wrestling experience. So yeah, like they, of course, we don't know about Sakuraba's how he trains. So he trains in what his name, the jiu-jitsu gym, the Carpe Diem team.
Mm-hmm.
So but from that, that's all we know. We don't know how what he brings to the table to Yasuke Yachi, but on the paper, from and based on the physical aspect and experience, that's the mismatch for me.
I see. And Just Bleed fan, when it comes down to the two fights that I mentioned, I mean, obviously, the betting odds for both of these fights are probably astronomical at this point, with Doubtbeck and Yachi being the key favorites. But which one do you think is the bigger dud when it comes down to the mismatches?
Well, Yaman at least has a couple of MMA fights. So, and Sakuraba's son has 0 professional MMA fights. So on that level, you know, that might be a greater mismatch. However, does Sakuraba's son have elite BJJ? So much so that he has to be respected even in spite of not having a single professional MMA fight. I don't know. I haven't watched any of his grappling or other competitions. Japanese MMA, it does do some strange things, and this is one of them. As the son of a legend, he should probably get, an 0-1 or 1-1 type, fighter, somebody that he matches up better with on paper, not someone who has dozens of fights and a lot of tough wins. He's going to have elite BJJ, I would think, to win this fight. I don't know if he does, though.
Oh, yeah, of course he's going to have elite BJJ. Because when it comes down to Yusuke Yachi, I mean, yeah, the dude has a penchant for getting finished, as we've seen recently in his fight with Mansour Banawi in Bellator, the bastardized version, the PFL version. But still, though, Yachi doesn't have that good of a submission game anyways, as judging by the fact that 10 of his 27 wins are by way of finish, 4 of them by way of submission. But still, though, when it comes down to that, Saku's definitely going to have to basically work that submission game real well. I mean, he's not the son of a legend by just basically, not learning how to do submissions. I mean, it's in the family DNA for Sakuraba. And also, Andrew was saying, does Saku Jr. know how to take a punch? That's the question I pondered. I mean, like, that's definitely going to play into a factor as well because, like I said, Yachi only has 6 of his 27 wins by way of knockout. The rest of his wins are by way of decision. I mean, I think if Saku can know how to take a punch, he can definitely work his way to a victory. It's just the fact that the odds are not going to be in his favor. I mean, do y'all want to attest to that?
Yeah, I was just looking at the odds. Yachi is a minus 280 favorite, Sakuraba plus 220. So it's not that wide. Yachi's a clear favorite. You know, if this was not a Japanese MMA fight, I would presume that Sakuraba's son actually has trained well and thinks he could actually win. And that's why the odds are close. And that's why they put him with such an experienced fighter. However, because this is Japanese MMA weirdness and losses aren't something to be ashamed of in Japanese MMA, I don't have that assumption. For all I know, they're putting him in that fight thinking, hey, whatever happens, happens. But even his dad might not think he's going to win. I don't know. So I wouldn't touch this fight from a gambling perspective. Just watch it for fun.
Yeah. Watch it basically knowing that something's going to happen and it may end up being a lot crazier than whatever goes on the Vegas Strip when I don't know what happens in Vegas on New Year's Eve when the clock strikes midnight. I just know that a lot of chaos happens. But still, though, Zach, you have any thoughts about this fight before we potentially move on to talk about, our wild card fights?
So yeah, on this fight, on the Yasuke versus Sakuraba-san, the experience here is there's a too much gap in experience level here, but what the son is gonna bring, it's the unknown. He has the unknown factor for himself, but on how much is the unknown? That's the issue. What can he bring to Yachi that Yachi didn't see in his fighting career? I just watch it for fun in there, and I don't bet on that one. This one is not a fight you want to bet on.
I see. And one more thing about the Doubtbeck Yaman fight, Just Bleed fan. I mean, I'm pretty sure the odds for Doubtbeck are probably, like I said, astronomical in this case, right?
They're not that wide compared to what I thought it was going to be. Doubtbeck is a minus 400 favorite. So he's a significant favorite, but not astronomically so.
I see. Now, when it comes down to talking about our 8th fight on the card, I don't know if you want to count Stina Karimian versus Rukia Ampo in exhibition boxing as a true wild card fight, because let's face it, this fight card was hastily thrown together. This fight was hastily thrown together over the last several days because Cena was supposed to be. I don't know if it was. I still don't know if it was Sina Karimian or Mahmoud Satari that was supposed to be preparing for an MMA debut in Ryzen. But again, in lies the problem that Ryzen doesn't have that many bodies to throw around above 70 kilos, which includes the heavyweight and open weight division that used to be the crown jewel of the promotion in its first 2 years. So, and the fact that Rukia Ampo was supposed to fight Ryan Garcia, but Oscar De La Hoya was being something that rhymes with a flap punt. Let's just be real. But still, though, point of the matter is that bout's going to get supplemented probably to February if necessary. That is, if Oscar De La Hoya ain't up to his old bullshit. But still, though, when it comes down to this fight card, and I know that there are 2 heavyweight bouts on the card, Ed Polo King versus Taka Kenshin and Tae In Kim versus Mikio Ueda. Like I said, Ryzen doesn't really care about the heavyweight division, so not worth mentioning for me, but what fight would you say on this big ass card would be your wild card fight? Zach, start with you. What fight would you care about the most as your wild card fight?
You mean on the ones they've just put out?
Yeah, that and the other 18 fights that are on this card, other than the 7 we just got done talking about.
Yeah, so as for fun, and since they were, I want to watch the heavyweight fights. The King Apollo and Taka Kenshin.
Mm.
This one, for how can I say? Excuse me, entertainment purposes. Like because now in Japan there's not many heavyweights, so yeah, I'm keen to watch this one. As they say, the fight can be in heavyweight division. It can be very short or very long. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, and if it's very long, we got to make sure we don't fall asleep off of it.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and also I want to see this Cena against Ampo and see how it's play out. But I'm sure Ampo is gonna win that one.
I mean, if anything, he's probably gonna win that one because Karemian just came off of fighting NK1 about 2 weeks ago and losing no less. So, way to get a fresh body in there just to know he's gonna lose. No, it actually, Homeboy didn't lose. I mean, Karimian didn't lose. He ended up getting his second consecutive no contest because, let's face it, he's the king of dirty fighting. He's the hero of dirty fighting. And, oh, by the way, he got his ass handed to him by Liu Sha. He lost to Claudio Estrarte a year ago. And let's just face it, this is just a fucking cash grab, at least for him. Nobody's going to care about this fight or him unless he actually makes a serious commitment to MMA. That's it. And, when it comes down to your fight, Just Bleed fan, the fight that you would want to watch outside of the 7 we mentioned, what are your thoughts?
I also like watching the Japanese heavyweights, even though it's only featured fights every so often.
Mm-hmm.
Taka Kenshin is interesting. He has a negative record at the moment. It'd be interesting to see if he can win this fight. I believe there's a huge height disparity, according to what I read, with his opponent.
Yeah, of course there is, because Ed Polo King is 6'8". He is a gargantuan oddity.
Right. So that's classic Japanese weirdness. The other fight that we didn't talk about, but apparently every podcaster I've listened to, which are a total of 2 really, but Andrew's podcast, he mentioned Suguru Ni versus Koji Takeda.
Mm-hmm.
He liked Ni for the win, which would be a significant upset since Ni is a plus 190 underdog at the moment. There was another gambling podcast that I listened to the other day. I posted it in the channel. Those guys who are not experts on Japanese MMA, but they do watch it, Ryzen at least, they also like Ni. So I was interested to see that Ni still remains a significant underdog. So everybody thinks he's going to win. Might be worth throwing a few bucks on him as well.
Man, I mean, I think that fight's going to be fun. I mean, it's not because of the fact that I'm going to side with Suguru Ni because Andrew enjoys watching him. I mean, that's actually his favorite fighter going around in Ryzen right now because of him being a bodyguard, by trade. But still, though, point is, when it comes down to this featherweight fight, considering the fact that there's not that many top featherweights in Ryzen, I mean, maybe this fight, Takeda versus Ni, probably might decipher that,
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes down to my wild card fight, the fight that I would probably be most interested in. And no, I'm not saying it's going to be Izawa versus Abdul-Garim. That fight is just a straight dud. And especially if Ikeda loses to Abdul-Garim, you might as well scrap this super animweight division entirely. Because just like with the upper weight classes for the men, all of the weight classes in the women's ranks lack, significant interest around the globe, except for the fact that you got stars like Ayaka Hamasaki still leading the way. And of course, Reina Kubota was supposed to be fighting on this card against somebody, particularly Izawa, for the title. And Sari Oshima was supposed to face off against Izawa. But both of those two ladies are injured. So, who knows what this division's going to lead to down the line when Izawa defeats Abdul-Garim in a couple of days. But still, though, hopefully it's still around to the point where Izawa faces Reina or Oshima. But the fight that I'm interested in, and it's not really a big fight to be talking about, but it's the dual MMA debuts of acclaimed kickboxers, the Hypernova Tiger Kawabe versus King Genji Umeno, a.k.a. Mr. Yabaidalo. I mean, y'all probably didn't think that these two former K1 kickboxers was even going to square off in the MMA, in mixed martial arts competition, right? Zach, your thoughts about Tiger versus Umeno?
Oh yeah, on this fight, I'm not too sure, but we saw that Umeno last time. Who did he fight? If I think it was Full Swing that he fought in the Rising Red, right?
Yeah, I think so. It was Genji Umeno versus Mamoru Oi Full Swing. You probably trained alongside him, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I was there. So like Umeno is a kickboxer,
Mm-hmm.
so and a Muay Thai fighter. So I was wondering on this fight why they didn't give him a Muay Thai fight in the Rising Ring or a kickboxing fight in the Rising Ring. So I'm not too sure about this fight. I didn't see even think about this fight recently, so I don't really know on this one. But it's always good to have a fight added to a fight card. So yes, but if when it comes to Umino, did he say anything about switching to Muay to MMA?
You're asking if he said anything about switching from Muay Thai to MMA?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he did. And he did. I probably haven't heard about it yet. But still, though, I just think this fight should be interesting because you got two kickboxers, one of whom's a Muay Thai kickboxer, basically switching up to something that he almost has next to no business competing in. But hopefully it'll be a fun show, a fun bout. And Just Bleed fan, when it comes down to this particular fight, I'm guessing the odds are pretty even on this one, right?
I don't even know if there were odds for this one. Let me check.
Is it because of the fact that these two men are making their MMA debuts that nobody cares?
I don't know if anybody cares. I think it's probably a hard match to figure out. Oh no, wait. Genji Umeno. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yes, we're talking about Genji Umeno versus Tiger Kawabe.
Yeah, actually there are. Tiger Kawabe minus 260 favorite and Genji Umeno plus 200 underdog.
Wow.
How they determine that? I don't know.
I mean, I don't know either. Maybe they just figure because of the fact that Tiger has more kickbox. No, wait, actually, maybe it's because of the fact that Tiger is more of a points fighter in kickboxing, even though he's the former, or I guess current, Rise Super Featherweight champion. Even though Genji has more wins via knockout in kickboxing. He plays around too much. He basically plays around with his entrances, especially when it comes down to the distractions there are in that, especially with, the whole Yabai Dado thing. Maybe the odds makers probably think that Tiger takes this a hell of a lot more seriously than Umeno does. But that's just my opinion, right?
With two kickboxers, who knows? Maybe one of them has a moderate amount of wrestling or grappling, or maybe they just made the odds based on who's a better kickboxer. Who knows? No way to know.
I mean, come to think of it, who's the better kickboxer? Not in the case of Umeno, who is the more experienced kickboxer. I mean, Umeno has more fights in kickboxing, 71-45, but again, like I said, he doesn't take this shit seriously enough because of the whole. I mean, I don't know if it's how Daisuke Sato with the VTRs makes this out to be, but I mean, come on, it's a hard match for me to basically say who's gonna win off of. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, like you said, I'm only watching this match for entertainment purposes only.
Right.
But still, though, aside from all that, we could talk all night about the entirety of this card, including the Rising Decade portion featuring Ren Hiramoto, featuring two teams of 6 representing Ren Hiramoto and Mikuru Asakura. But we ain't got that type of time. If you want to check out more of what Ryzen has in store for this event, all you got to do is order the damn pay-per-view, either via Ryzen.tv for $15 or via Famio pay-per-view for $50. Keep in mind, you might want to get the Ryzen TV deal, even though the Famio deal has more goodies involved, like all types of free stuff. But still, though, links for that in the description, as I will do my damnedest to edit it out all the way through the night. And also, one more thing, I got an interview, a long-awaited interview with Michael Schiavello, the voice Michael Schiavello, that I will be putting out at the stroke of midnight Central Time tonight. That's 1 a.m. Eastern for you East Coasters, 10 p.m. Pacific for those out west, so you can enjoy your nightcap while hearing me talk to Michael Schiavello. But still, though, aside from that, I can't wait for this Rising card. I'm pretty sure y'all can't wait either, right? Zach?
Definitely, yes. I'm excited. Definitely, there's some fight I want to see, and because of the unknown factor also for Yasuke and Sakura-san's fight, I want to see that. I want to see Vuga also. There's some fights that I really want to see. So yeah, it's pretty much exciting.
Mm-hmm. And JDF, same with you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching the weigh-ins in a few hours. I'm going to stay up for that. I'm looking forward to the card. I am not promising that I'm going to stay up all night and watch it, because I usually get in about 3 hours and then I just feel miserable and I'm like, this is torture. So I'm just going to go to sleep. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the fights. I'm especially looking forward to, since I'm going to have some bets on it, and it should be fun.
Yeah, because also I don't know if you guys saw, but there's like a festival going on at the weigh-ins. So the weigh-ins starts in at 3:45 p.m. Japan time. But before that, we have the Rising Girls that are doing their final show. We have also a Jiu-Jitsu card going on.
Mm.
We have 2 cards actually of Jiu-Jitsu. We have the under 18, so it's the Koshien Jiu-Jitsu Cup. So they have a tournament, Jiu-Jitsu tournament. Then we have also a Jiu-Jitsu card,
Oh,
which feature what's his name? Bachi from Deep. We also have the ringer of deep fighting with Benoit, with Black Panther Benoit in grappling.
Mm-hmm.
We have also the former Pancrase champion. I forgot his name. He trained at Jackson Wink. Um,
Mm, you're talking now, I would say Shoji or Nakajima.
no, not the one. I forgot his name. I think it was the 145 champion
Oh, the
in
featherweight
Pancrase.
increase?
Yes, yes. I can't remember his name.
Neither can I.
Yeah. And yes, so there's a big jiu-jitsu
Zach, can you?
action. Yes, yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Oh,
you.
yeah. So they also have auctions going on, like of rising you won by fighters goods. They also have fire signing going on.
Mm.
And what is funny is also tomorrow before the fight, the festival is still going on with the Rising Dance Grand Prix. I
Uh,
don't know why they put that on, but they do have a dancing Grand Prix, which mostly are break dancers
it's
uh,
entertainment.
battling each other.
It's only entertainment. By the way, I
Yeah.
think the guy you're mentioning, as far as former featherweight king of Pancrase is concerned, isn't that Isao Kobayashi?
Uh, no, it's the
It's what? Zach, you still there? Can you hear me? Oh my god, I can't even. I mean, I'm sorry. These kinds of things happen. I mean, Zach, I'm pretty sure you, if you can hear us, we'll get right back to
yeah.
you.
Oh yeah, I'm here.
Mm.
So yeah, there's a card like Jiu-Jitsu card going on with Benoit and this King of Pancrase fighter, but it's basically more entertaining fights. So I think they pulled that on their website. You can watch the card, and I think it's going to be streamed on YouTube.
Okay.
And that is today. That's today. Yes, today during the weigh-ins.
So you're
So
saying
the
it's going to be at 3:45 p.m. JST, which is around 12:45 a.m. here in the U.S. Central Time Zone. 10:45
yes,
for Just Bleed fan, I think. Right?
yes, and it's a public weigh-in, so it's not going to be the usual setting that they do for their weigh-in. So it's going to be like a bigger thing because it's during the festival. So I don't know if you guys know, but we do have Saitama Arena, which is an inside arena, and now we have the Saitama Community Hall. So
Mm-hmm.
the community hall is another arena where you have breaking downs going on, and that's outside Saitama Arena, but right next to it, right next door. But it's outside. It's an outside arena. That's where they used to have the rising amateur fights also. But now they didn't redo that again this year. I don't know why, but yes, that's going to be something because it's during the festival. So it's a 10-year anniversary festival uh, going on right now over there. But the weigh-ins, yes, it's going to be at 3:45 up to 5:15.
Oh, okay, okay. Just wondering. And before you go, Zach, how can the people get in touch with you? I know we communicate with each other a lot now that I remember you.
Yeah.
So,
So you can catch me on Twitter, Instagram at Boscape MMA, And yeah, and also on Facebook, same name, Zach Buscape. And but I'm most active on Instagram. So yeah, that's the platform you can find me on.
Yes, of course. And, just like Just Bleed fan, you are also part of the Rising FF fans Discord as well. I mean, I'm not hearing, I guess that is, it is true, but still, though, Just Bleed fan, seeing the fact that you don't really do social media all that much, you're on that Discord. Why don't you tell the people about it?
Yes, the Discord is a fun place to discuss Ryzen and other MMA, especially Japanese MMA. I personally don't watch a whole lot of other Japanese MMA other than Ryzen. I see a little bit of it. I do watch some kickboxing. I watch Glory Kickboxing. I watched the Glory and Rise card recently, but I'm not a Japanese MMA fan. Expert, but I am a fan, and it's nice to see some of the people I chat with here on the podcast.
So yeah, that's cool. I see. Yeah, the guy I was talking about was Ishiwatari
Oh,
Shintaro.
Shitari.
Yeah, and yeah, I sent. I'm not sure if I sent. I sent the fight card in the chat. So the full fight card of this jiu-jitsu festival.
Oh, right, of course. And like you said, it's going to be starting at 3:45 p.m. JST, which again, need I mention for the folks living in the United States, that's going to take place at around 1:45 a.m. Eastern Time, 10:45 p.m. Pacific for the weigh-ins around that particular time. If you're that much of a fight fan like us, you go out of your way to actually check that shit out.
Yes,
I just checked
also,
the link, and I did not see the link yet on the Ryzen YouTube page like it usually is.
Come to think of it, they'll probably post a notification saying that you can go ahead and check that out. But still, though, other than that, Just Bleed fan. You don't have any other social media platforms like I mentioned, right?
No, I don't use any social media that I would choose to share here or that I discuss MMA on. I'm on Discord. I'm on some other Discords and IRC chats that are gambling related, but nothing that specializes in Japanese MMA. I am doing something potentially interesting to some people. I'd love it if you would join, Jay. I'm trying to get a few people interested in participating in the first annual Fantasy Ryzen game, which if you saw, maybe you saw me post about it in the chat.
I think I did see you post about that. I'll have to check in on that particular competition because I don't really do fantasy sports often. The last time I did it was around a decade ago, and it was one of the worst experiences I've had trying to follow along with all these different teams and players or fighters and all that. But please explain for the uninhibited what the Fantasy Rising contest is all about, and if they choose to join the Rising FF fans Discord server.
Well, if you're familiar with fantasy sports and from football or baseball or hockey or basketball, it's kind of similar. Basically, first off, it's free. We're not playing for money. It's just for bragging rights. And what it involves is picking a roster of fighters. Now, what I've done in the games I'm involved in with the fantasy UFC and we would pick all our team up front. So basically, we take turns, and we'd have some randomized order, and you'd pick from the roster of hundreds of fighters, however many fighters you want on your team. For example, 2 heavyweights, 2 light heavyweights, 2 middleweights, 3 welterweights, all the way down the line, including the women's weight classes. And when I ran the Fantasy Bellator League, it was similar. We did, 2 of each weight class and then 1 each of the 2 female weight classes. What for the Fantasy Ryzen, I changed it up a little. Basically, you are bidding on who you want to be on your team instead of picking everything up front. For example, this week there's 20-something fights. Of those 40-plus fighters, you would have to bid. You'd have a budget of $150. It has to last all year. You would bid a few dollars for all the fighters you want on your team, and the highest bid takes it. So you might spend up to 15 or 20 or more dollars on this particular card, save some of your budget for the rest of the cards all throughout the year, and at the end of the year, whoever has the most points wins. You'd have to stretch your budget out all year, and you get points for your fighters as they win. You get bonus points if they get a finish. Because it's Ryzen, I have special bonus points if they win with the so-called superior rule set. And there's penalties if you lose. If your fighter loses, you lose points if your fighter gets finished.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also bonus points if your fighter wins an interim title, a undisputed title. There's bonus points if they win a Grand Prix, and there are also bonus points on the chance that there are any bare knuckle or collaboration fights with BKFC or PFL.
No, I'm gonna go ahead and take a wild guess that I'm gonna go ahead and take a wild guess and say that JayWolf is definitely one of those ones that are definitely gonna be loving this. And speaking of, you can check out. I'm sorry, JayWolf, that you can't be able to join because of issues with your audio or video or your StreamYard and stuff like that. But y'all can check out his profile on Discord if you're on the server, or if you're on Twitter. I'm not calling it X, elongated muskrat. You can follow him on there at the beautiful little banner below, JayWolf, because he spelled it like that, dating back to his Yahoo days, Yahoo Messenger days. Also, you can go ahead and check out my commentary. Well, you can go ahead and check out my friend, my partner, my compadre, Andrew Benjamin, on the little thing that we normally come together and blab about on the podcast by following him on Twitter and Instagram. But other than that, and again, special shout out to Izzy Doa and Combat Sports Today. You can check out their platforms on those beautiful links. Special shout out to Todd Atkins. You can check out his podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And again, need I remind y'all to check out the links that I have, as well as the link tree for this fight thing we call Focus Fights in the description below. But other than that, no, I'm done. Just Bleed Fan and Zach Buscape, it's been fun to have y'all join me on this. And all I got to say is I thank y'all for checking us out, checking out Focus Fights audio, video, the podcast platform. Hopefully we can get a website going again soon, but still don't. That's about it from us for now. We thank y'all for checking us out all year. Happy New Year. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah. And we hope to see y'all again in 2025. Because hopefully I want to make sure of this. I hope y'all can come back for the review of this damn show, even though we won't talk about all the fights next week on January 5th, 2025. But still, though, if not, just let me know. But still, though, it's been fun doing this throughout the year, and hopefully we can do it again next year. Other than that, good night, goodbye, Gambare, and we hope you enjoy Rising 49 and Rising Decade in 48 hours, well, in about 30 something hours from now on pay-per-view. Peace. And
Peace,
we
everyone.
Bye bye.